On this AVNation special, we sit down with three fantastic members of the SCN the 9 for 2021. Jen Steinhardt, Erica Williams, and Sarabeth Mullins talking about where they are in the industry, how they got here, and where they see the AV industry headed. All that and more next on this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special, SCN the 9 for 2021, Part 3. This is Tim Albright with an AVNation special, taking a look at SCN's the 9, the annual list of the 9 most up-and-coming young AV professionals in the industry. Our buddy Megan Dutta from System Contractor News puts together the list. We sit down with all 9 of them, not all at the same time, because my brain is not capable of talking to 9 people at the same time, which thankfully today, this is probably one of, if not my favorite, one of these that I've gotten to do in the last couple of years. I'm calling them my super group, and you'll find out why. First and foremost, straight off of a wonderful honeymoon and just that way down Highway 70 for me, Erica Williams from Henderson Engineers. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Erica, you can see her every 6 or 7 weeks on AV Week, so she's one of our what we call our regulars. Sarabeth Mullins, I have interviewed with the Women in AV month. She is all the way over in Paris, France. She is a doctoral student at Sorbonne University, and I'll let her, the other interview, talk about some of the incredible things she's doing at Notre Dame. But welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, and last but not least, I cannot tell you how excited I am about this young lady. I get to interview her for the first time. Her name is Jen Steinhardt. She is with Audio Visual Associates by way of New Jersey. Welcome, ma'am.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So, Erica, I want to start with you on this. One of the things about the 9, by the way, congratulations to all 3 of you for making that incredible honor. Lots of really great AV professionals have made this list over the years. Erica, when you look back and you find out how or describe how you got involved in the industry and how you kind of ended up where you are today.
It's the same old story as a lot of people, as I just kind of stumbled on it. I was working at Henderson in entry-level help desk position, and the guy that we had that was doing AV, he switched to a different company, so we kind of had a little bit of a hole, and I was just drawn to it, and I had been working with him a little bit, learning about our video on demand and recording trainings and stuff. So I'd already had a little bit of exposure, and I was like, I think I really like this. So I just dug my heels into the ground and took off running, and it's just kind of exploded since then. And our company as a whole has grown over the years. So the need for proper support with AV specialty is really important. So it's kind of been organic growth, but it's been really great.
And really quickly, because I want to define something for folks, because when I first met you and found out you worked for Henderson Engineers, I'm like, okay, so she works and she either engineers AV systems. You are equivalent to a higher ed tech manager, right? So you provide the support and the design internally for Henderson Engineers, not necessarily externally for some of their systems. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. So for the AV that I do, you could consider it kind of an in-house integrator. I'm the manager of AV and collaboration, so I am part of the IT management group for the company Henderson Engineers. We do have an internal technology group that does do AV design and AV engineering and security systems, but I am not part of that group. I'm not that smart. Just kidding. I couldn't do the math. Way too much math for that degree for me. But yeah, so I do for our corporate offices. We have 12 offices across the country, so I'm responsible for our almost 80 conference rooms and making sure that people's laptop cameras are connecting to Zoom properly and doing all that kind of internal AV support, and currently trying to figure out the best way to roll out Zoom rooms across the company. So it's been a fun thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Having the ability to kind of see both sides of that, and being inside of AT years ago, watching that transition from a tech manager who was under the AV department, quote unquote, and how, like you said, you work with the IT staff. That transition has been interesting to watch. Sarabeth, I mentioned the fact that we've kind of got your full story about a month or so ago. Give folks kind of an overarching view of how you as an AV professional not only got involved in the industry, but also how you ended up in Paris.
Right. Well, like I told you last time, I think the ultimate reason I got into it was because I've got blood in the industry. My father is a consultant in AV, and I grew up listening to him talk about sound around the dinner table, so to speak. So as I was starting to choose what I wanted to do with my music degree, I got re-involved and reintroduced with the Avixa Foundation, and kind of that was my entry point back into the world of AV and the more technical side of sound. So did some consulting for a while, discovered a passion for acoustics, realized if I wanted to pursue that passion, I'd need to do continuing education beyond what I initially had. So I ended up first in Scotland and now here in Paris pursuing a doctoral degree in acoustics and also with a heavy side dose of technology. So I suppose in total you could call me a bit of a multidisciplinarian when it comes to sound.
And just because I think it's fascinating and it's cool, explain to folks what you're doing to get your PhD, the actual, what you're studying and the things that you're doing.
Right. Yeah, so the thesis is reconstructing the acoustic heritage of Notre Dame Cathedral using historically informed simulations. So I'm one member of a very large team of scientists and social scientists who are studying sort of the cultural heritage or the patrimony, so to speak, of the cathedral in both France's culture and the world.
All right, Jen, I have watched you on Twitter, I think, at least over a year now. And I think before we started recording, somebody called you elusive, and I'll agree with that. But your posts are fascinating. They're somewhat they're geeky, but they're just freaking awesome. And I think you and I have ended up a couple of my buddy Chris Netto's happy hours together. Just so if folks are interested, how did you get involved in the industry and how did you land in AV?
So I feel like I fell into AV, but I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I actually think I've been ignoring the signs for a long time. That everything that I've done has been heavily involved in system and processes. From sales and marketing to working in retail with social relationships, personal training I did for a little while, which is essentially you're designing the human body and helping people achieve their goals and pain points. So each step of the way, and even I did my master's in sociology just before I jumped into AV, which is essentially you're looking at patterns of social behavior and structures. And so now I'm here in AV and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I feel like I finally found my match.
So I'm trying to make the connection here between sociology and AV. And there's a couple jokes I could make there because I know some sociopaths in AV. But one of them may or may not be the aforementioned Chris Netto. But in all seriousness, how did you like? What did that jump look like?
That's where it feels like I fell into the AV. So a lot of my research when I was in sociology was on gender identity, but also looking at the relationships and the social interaction between retail workers and customers. So looking at what kind of rituals and behaviors happened, how did that kind of affect, which is more into the psychology than the sociology. For those who aren't really that familiar, sociology is not necessarily the same as social work. Sociology is the study of society. Right. If that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a question for all three of you, and Erica, we'll start with you on this. You know, I purposely wanted to get the three of you together. Not, there were other women on the SCN the 9. Two of you I've interviewed before. Jen, again, very incredibly excited to be able to interview this time. But I wanted to get your three kind of conversation about diversity and about, what the industry looks like today and what the three of you hope it to, what you hope it to look like, by the time that you are, retiring and putting down, whatever version of protractor and compass we have in 30 years. So Erica, talk for a second about, the importance of diversity and the importance of representation in the industry.
Sure. I will sidebar really quick though, because Jen made a really good point, and that's one of the things that I love most about working in AV is for a while I considered going into psychology and human behavior, and one of my favorite things about AV is being able to use technology and AV to enhance the human behavior experience and the communication experience between people. So that's awesome. But that also does go into diversity. I know that Jen and I have had multiple conversations about this before, about neurodiversity and paying attention to the way that, not just the monitors that you're plugging in or the cameras you're plugging in, but the entire workplace or the entire classroom, truly paying attention to that experience, because that's what this is supposed to be about, right? So as we continue to move on, I think it'll be really important for people to start to emphasize that more and to bring it up at the beginning of the design process, and to try to get more involved in the space planning process when you're looking at new spaces or redesigns, because that is going to, it's going to make the overall experience for people communicating with each other better, but it's also going to make people more productive. They're going to be more comfortable. It's creating a better world. So I think that's a big thing. And obviously, for me, working in an engineering firm in the Midwest, it's an industry that is largely dominated by white males. Fortunately, we're starting to see that shift, and we are starting to see that shift in AV as well. I did go through some of the previous SCN the 9 winners, and you can see over the past quite a few years the way that the demographic of the industry is changing, and the types of people that the industry is starting to draw in. So I just am hopeful that we continue on that trajectory, because the voices of diversity matter, and that's what makes all of us better.
Sarabeth, same kind of. Oh, go ahead, Jen.
Oh no, I was going to say I think that the topics of diversity seem really, really scary at first, and that the path of diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that I think we still have a long ways to go. But if anything, looking at the class this year, male, female, all sorts of identities. And so the more that we can talk about this stuff, the more we're going to grow as both AV professionals, but also as companies as well.
Can I jump on that equity thing really quick? Because it reminded me of something that I can't remember which virtual conference I was attending, but one of the speakers kept mentioning like technology equity, remote working equity. And I think something that a lot of people don't take into consideration is that, you do have your C-suite people who are bringing in the big bucks, and they can hire an integrator to come in their home and they can set up this awesome office. But then there's the employee who, you don't know their home circumstances. Maybe they have 5 kids and their spouse just got laid off, and they can't afford to buy that fancy equipment. And so organizations figuring out how to be better about remote working equity in that sense that, sure, the CEO has to look a certain way and present a certain way, but, the person who can't afford to buy all that stuff or to hire somebody to come in shouldn't feel like they're not as good or good enough, because that's just going to affect their morale in the end.
Well, and to the other part of that is they need to be valued as a contributor, whether they're working remote or they're working in person. And if they can't afford not only equipment but higher speeds. I made the we've had several different people over the years of doing AV Week and AVNation, where you can tell that the connection is not the greatest in the world, right? And then that depends on not only location but also connection speeds and stuff like that. We've interviewed folks from Uganda. We've interviewed folks from India. We've interviewed folks from France. With Sarabeth. Now with the UK and different parts of the US. And each of one of those has a different infrastructure, right? My buddy Josh Schrago he and I have had long conversations about the infrastructure specifically in the U.S. and the equity disparity just in connectivity, right? Whether you're talking about the urban connectivity or even rural connectivity, there's absolutely a disparity there. Sarabeth, I want to get your take on what not only the makeup of the industry but also the importance of representation, both in the States as well as abroad in the industry.
Right. Well, I'll try not to take your comment about internet speeds to heart, Tim. I do apologize. I'm working with the best that I've got here. I think as technologists, we tend to have this really myopic view of what our role in the world is. I think we focus a lot on gadgets. We focus a lot on tech. We think of ourselves as the part of the greater STEM community. But I really think that's a false understanding of what we do as AV professionals. I think when you get down to it, the fundamental thing we do is we facilitate stories. We don't know when we're going into a space, if we're creating a space for teaching, for community building, for healing. I mean, the scope, the markets that we touch in AV are so vast and so diverse that we really have to stop thinking of ourselves as a purely tech solution-based industry. And because we're in diverse fields, I think the issue of diversity in the people who work inside our field really becomes much more important than you might otherwise think. The way humans interact with technology, the way humans interact with computers, with screens, with audio equipment, all of that is fundamentally influenced by their prior experiences with technology, with technologists. If we don't have a wealth of experience of those prior interactions within our own pool of workers, I think we're the poorer for it because we can't actually have that imagination to see what we do and its possibilities in new applications. So I think for me, when I think about diversity in AV, there's a human interest. I want people like me, people who are not, shall we say, the typical technology worker, to feel comfortable in the industry. But I think even on kind of a macro level, our field is better when there's more background, when there's more diversity, when we include more people in the design process. So that's my platform. That's the thing that I'm always on about on my online presences, because I just really hate to see our imaginations hampered by a lack of vision to understand what we can be, not just to the markets, but also as a community of professionals ourselves.
This is for any of the three of you. What do you think this last year has done to our interaction with technology? As Sarabeth pointed out, those a year ago or 2 years ago, let's say, my dad, who's in his 70s now, would have never considered doing a doctor's appointment by Zoom, and he's had probably 3 or 4 of them at this point, right? because that's kind of what we all went to. What do you think the last year in the pandemic itself and the lockdown has done to, our interaction, but also our expectations of not just technology in general, but of audio and video connections?
I will say this may not be the answer you're looking for, but one of the positives of using technology and of 2020 has been, for me, being neurodiverse myself, getting out, getting to trade shows, meeting people, and networking can be a really big challenge because you're dealing with a lot of sensory issues, a lot of new environments and things like that. And being able to have Zoom calls and do AV happy hours and having huge community building through Twitter with AV in the AM and things like that. That if anything we've learned from 2020 is that, technology has our back. And, if you have the right people behind it, you can do a lot of really amazing things. Of course, you can get zoomed out with too many calls. And I think that, or at least I hope that learning when it could be an email versus a meeting has gotten a little bit better. But
well, and when it can be an email and not a Zoom call too. So that's a whole nother, that's an entirely new meme. So, all right. Thank you all so much. Erica Williams from Henderson Engineers. Well, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And how do people connect with you or Henderson if they are so inclined?
Definitely check out hendersonengineers.com. We got a lot of great stuff going on, and maybe you'll find your place with us. I think you'd really like it. You can find me on Twitter at HaircutFW, or you can connect on LinkedIn. I'm no longer the one with the orange shirt. Now my shirt is purple and my hair's long. So there's a lot of Eric Williamses out there, but just look for Henderson Engineers, and hopefully we can connect.
Yeah, absolutely. That orange shirt was a nice trademark for a while, though. Sarabeth, thank you, ma'am. If I remembered any of my 3 years of French, I would say something to you, but I don't. So thank you. And how do people connect with you?
Well, I suppose like Erica, you can find me on LinkedIn. I believe I'm the only Sarabeth Mullins there, so I don't have any tricks for finding me. I'm also on Twitter. You can find me at Sarabeth Mullins, also just my first and last name. And I guess if you're interested in my research, I'd love to connect with you on a one-on-one basis. I'm very much a nerd and love talking about sound. So
yeah, if you are anywhere in the matrix, to use her words, of his history buff and audio geek, you need to talk to Sarabeth. I'm just going to put that out there. All right. Jen Steinhardt, you have absolutely made my day and my month and my year. I am not even kidding you. I'll tell on myself. I didn't realize when I got the email from my buddy Megan Dutta. She's gonna kill me for calling her Meg. I didn't realize that the Jen Steinhardt was the Nerdy Girl AV until I made two, and I don't even remember how I made the connection between your Twitter handle and who you were. So yeah, you absolutely made my week. So in my year. So thank you. How do people connect with you online or wherever?
First of all, I just want to say you've made my day, my year. So I mean, I feel like it's mutual.
There we go.
You can find me. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Nerdy Girl AV. I'm also on LinkedIn, or if you don't feel like searching for those, you can go to nerdygirlav.com and you can find all of my social platforms for there. And then if you're looking for my company, it is avaonline.com.
All right, very good.
So not that again, it's my company.
Yep. Again, congratulations to all three of you and the rest of the 9. This will be the last one, so all 9 of you. If you're going to InfoComm in Orlando, no judgment if you are, no judgment if you're not. I'll be there. And if you're part of the 9, let's connect. So thank you all guys so much. You can check out all of their articles on avnetwork.com. That's avnetwork.com, and our buddy Megan Dutta over at SCN. For us, for our website, you can go by avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Find this recording, and the other 2 of the rest of the 9. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.